The Brothers Karamazov. Epilogue. Subsection 2. For a moment the lie becomes truth. Page 967. He hurried to the hospital where Mitya now lay. On the second day after the sentence of the court he had fallen ill with a mild nervous fever, and was dispatched to the prisoners' section of our town hospital. The physician, Vervinsky, had, however, at the request of Alyosha and many others, Mrs. Kokakova, Lisa, etc., had Mitya put not with the prisoners, but separately, in the same little closet of a room where Smerdyakov had earlier lain. To be sure, at the end of the corridor stood a sentry, and the window was covered by an iron grille, and Vervinsky was able to rest easy with regard to his indulgence, not entirely within the law, but he was a kind and compassionate young man. He realized how difficult it was for one such as Mitya to suddenly step straight across in the company of murderers and fraudsters, and that he would not get accustomed to it at first. But the visits of family and friends were allowed both by the doctor and by the chief warder, and even by the chief of police, all surreptitiously. In the past few days Mitya had, however, received visits only from Alyosha and Grushenka. Rakitin had twice endeavored to get in to see him, but Mitya had emphatically requested Varvinsky not to admit him. Alyosha found him sitting on his bunk, in a hospital dressing gown, with a slight fever, his head bound with a towel that had been wetted with water and vinegar. With a look that was ill-defined he watched Alyosha come in, but in his gaze there also fleeted something that seemed akin to fear. He had, on the whole, since the trial, become dreadfully pensive. Sometimes he would not say anything for half an hour at a time, seemingly considering something slowly and tormentingly, oblivious to anyone and anything that were present. If, on the other hand, he emerged from his pensiveness and began to speak, he always did it in a way that was somehow unexpected and never on any account about what he really should have spoken out. Sometimes, with suffering, he would look at his brother. He seemed to find it easier to be with Grushenka than Alyosha. To be sure, he hardly ever spoke to her, but no sooner did she come in than his whole face would be illuminated with joy. Alyosha sat down beside him on the bunk, and did not say anything. On this occasion he had awaited Alyosha with anxiety, but did not dare to ask any questions. He believed it to be out of the question that Katya would consent to come, and at the same time felt that if she did not come, then that would be something altogether impermissible. Alyosha understood his emotions. That Trifon, Mitya began in agitation. You know, the Borisich fellow, they say he has wrecked the whole of that couch house of his. He's been pulling up floorboards, tearing out planks. They say he has smashed the whole of his gallery to bits. He spent all the time hunting for treasure for that same money, the 1,500 that the public procurator said I hid there. As soon as he arrived back there, they say, he started getting up to his tricks. Serves the twister, right? One of the warders here told me about it yesterday. He's from over there that way. Listen, Alyosha said. She will arrive, but I do not know when. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, I do not know. But she will arrive, she will. That much is certain. Mitya started, was on the point of saying something, but remained silent. The news had a fearful effect on him. It was plain that he had a tormenting desire to learn the details of what had been said, but that he was again afraid to ask about them immediately. Anything cruel and contemptuous from Katya would have been to him like a blow from a knife at that moment. Here's what she said, among other things, that I should be sure to put your conscience at rest on account of the escape. Even if Ivan is not well again by that time, she herself will take charge of him. You have already told me about that, Mitya commented thoughtfully. And you have already repeated it to Grusha, Alyosha observed. Yes, Mitya confessed. She is not going to come this morning, he said, looking timidly at his brother. She will only come in the evening. As soon as I told her yesterday that Katya was handling the matter, she held her tongue, but her lips twisted. And she did whisper, "Let her." She realized it was an important thing. I did not dare to probe further. After all, she does seem to understand now that the other one loves not me, but Ivan. Really? Burst from Alyosha. So perhaps she doesn't, but she's not going to come this morning. Mitya hurried to make clear again. I've given her a certain errand. Listen, Brother Ivan, listen. Brother Ivan will surpass everyone. He is the one who must live, not us. He will get better again. Imagine, even though Katya is afraid for him, she has almost no doubt that he will get better, Alyosha said. That means she is convinced that he is going to die. It is her fear that makes her certain that he will get better. That That brother of ours has a strong constitution. I also hope very much that he will get better, Alyosha observed, worriedly. Yes, he will get better, but she is certain that he will die. She has much grief. Silence ensued. Something very important was causing Mitya torment. Alyosha, I love Grusha dreadfully, he said all of a sudden in trembling voice that was filled with tears. She won't be allowed to join you there, Alyosha caught up at once. And there was another thing I wanted to tell you, Mitya continued in a voice that was suddenly somehow charged with resonance. If they begin to beat me on the journey, or there, I shall not submit, but shall kill, and I will be shot. And I mean, it's 20 years. They are already beginning to address me as thou. The warders say thou to me. All last night I lay passing judgment on myself. I'm not ready. It is not within my strength to accept it. I wanted to start singing the hymn, yet I cannot cope with the warden's vows. For Grusha I would endure anything except, come to think of it, beating, but they will not allow her there. Alyosha quietly smiled. Listen, brother, once and for all, he said. Here are my thoughts on that score, and I mean, you know that I would not lie to you. Then listen, you are not ready, and not for you is such a cross. Not only that, it is not necessary to you, who are not ready, such a grand martyr's cross. Had you murdered father, I would have wished that you had not rejected your cross, but you are innocent, and such a cross is too much for you. You wanted to regenerate another man within yourself by means of suffering. In my opinion, if only you will remember that other man all your life and wherever you may flee to, that will be enough for you. The fact that you have not accepted that great torment on the cross will merely help you to be aware within yourself of an even greater duty and debt, and by this awareness, henceforth, all your life, you will perhaps assist your own regeneration more than if you had gone there. Because there you will not endure and will make murmur, and perhaps indeed will say to yourself at last, I'm quits. In this case, the advocate spoke the truth. Not for all are heavy burdens, for some they are impossible. There are my thoughts, if you require them so badly. If others, officers, soldiers, were to be held responsible for your escape, then I would not permit you to flee. Alyosha smiled. But they say and assure me, that halt commander told Ivan himself, that if one knows how to go about it the right way, there will not be much of a punishment, and that it's possible to get off with a mere trifle. Of course, it is dishonest to practice bribery even in a case like this, but here I shall not on any account presume to judge, because, as a matter of fact, if, for example, Ivan and Katya were to charge me with handling this matter for you, I know I would go and give bribes. That is the whole truth, and I must tell you it. And so it is not for me to be your judge and tell you how to act. Know, however, that I shall never condemn you. And indeed, it would be strange, for how could I be your judge in this matter? Well, now, I believe I have considered everything. But I, in return, condemn myself, Mitya exclaimed. I shall flee. That has already been decided in your absence. Can Mitka Karamazov do otherwise than run away? But in return, I condemn myself, and there I will pray forgiveness for my sin forever. I mean, that is how the Jesuits talk, is it not? The way you and I are doing it now, eh? Indeed, Alyosha quietly smiled. I love you because you always tell me the whole unbroken truth and never conceal anything, Mitya exclaimed, joyfully laughing. In other words, I have caught my Alyoshka as a Jesuit. I ought to smother you all over in kisses for that. Yes, I ought. Well then, listen now to the rest of it. I shall unfold to you the other half of my soul. Here is what I have devised and determined. If I flee, even with money and a passport, even to America, then I will be encouraged by the thought that not to joy will I flee, not to happiness, but verily to another penal servitude, no worse, perhaps, than this one. No worse, Alexei, verily, I say, no worse. I now already hate that America of theirs. The devil take its hide. Very well, so Grusha will be with me. But look at her. I ask you, is she any sort of an American? She is a Russian, all over her, to the bone. She will start to pine for her native Mother Earth. And every moment I will see that she is doing it for me. She has taken such a cross for me, and what guilt has she? And do you think I will be able to enjoy those stinking shits over there? And though even though they may every one of them, be better than I. I hate the America of theirs even now, and even though they are every single one of them, immense locomotive drivers, or whatever, the devil with them, they are not my kind of people, they don't have my kind of soul. It's Russia I love, Alexei, the Russian God I love, even though I myself am a scoundrel. And I would choke and die there, he suddenly exclaimed, his eyes flashing. His voice had begun to tremble with tears. Well, so this is what I have decided, Alyosha. Listen, he began again, having suppressed his excitement. Grusha and I will go there, and at once we shall till the land, work with the wild bears in solitude somewhere as far away as possible. After all, there will be a place that is far away. They say there are also redskins there, somewhere over there in the land of theirs, on the edge of the horizon. Well, that is where we shall go, to the last of the Mohicans. Yes, and we shall at once get down to grammar, Grusha and I, work and grammar, and so on for some 3 years. In those 3 years we shall learn the English language as well as any Englishmen there ever were, and as soon as we have learned it, and end to America, we shall escape back here to Russia as American citizens. Have no fear, we shan't show our noses in this wretched little town. We shall hide somewhere as far away as possible, in the north or the south. By that time I have changed my appearance, and so will she. Back there in America, a doctor will fake a wart on me. After all, they're not mechanics for nothing. If not, then I'll put out one of my eyes, grow a beard, and arch and long, a grey one. I'll have gone grey pining for Russia, and perhaps no one will recognize me. And if they do, then let them, and send me into exile. It won't matter. It would just mean that fate did not allow. Here, too, we shall till the land in the wild somewhere, and I will pretend to be an American all the rest of my days. I recompense, we shall die in our native land. There is my plan, and it is immutable. Do you approve? Yes, I do, Alyosha said, not desiring to contradict him. For a moment, Mitya fell silent, and then suddenly said, and what about the way they landed me in the soup at the trial? For they did. They landed me in the soup. Even if they hadn't, they would still have convicted you, Alyosha said, with a sigh. Yes, the public here have had enough of me. They can go to hang, but all the same, it's hard. Mitya groaned with suffering. Again, they were silent for a moment. Alyosha, tell me the truth now, he exclaimed suddenly. Is she going to come now, or isn't she? Speak! What did she say? How did she say it? She said she would come, but I don't know if it would be today. After all, it's difficult for her, Alyosha said, giving his brother a timid look. Well, I do not wonder that it's difficult for her, Alyosha. This is driving me out of my mind. Grusha keeps looking at me all the time. She understands. Oh God, oh Lord, humble and restrain me. What do I ask? I ask Katya. Do I understand what I ask? The Karamazovian restraint. Impious. Impious. No, I am not capable of suffering. A scoundrel. And all said and done. Here she is! Alyosha exclaimed. At this moment, Katya suddenly appeared on the threshold. For a split second she paused, surveying Mitya with a kind of lost gaze. Mitya leapt headlong to his feet. His face displayed fear. He turned pale, but at once a timid, begging smile fleeted across his lips, and he suddenly, uncontainably, stretched out both arms to Katya. At the sight of this, she threw herself headlong towards him. She seized him by the hands, made him sit on the bed almost by force, herself sat down alongside, and, still not releasing his hands, kept pressing them hard, convulsively. Several times both struggled to say something, but kept pausing and again silently, fixedly, almost as though riveted together, stared with strange smiles at each other. In the fashion some 2 minutes went by. Have you forgiven me or not? Mitya mouthed at last, and that same instant, turning to Alyosha with a face that was distorted with joy, shouted to him, Do you hear what I ask? Do you hear? I loved you because you are generous of heart, burst suddenly from Katya, and you do not need my forgiveness, nor I yours. It is all the same whether you forgive or not. All the rest of my life you will remain like a wound in my soul, and I in yours. That is proper. She paused to take a breath. Why have I come? She began again, frenziedly and hurriedly. To embrace your feet, to press your hands like this, to the point of pain. You remember the way I used to press them in Moscow. To say again to you that you are my God, my joy. To say to you that I love you, madly. She almost groaned in torment, and suddenly, avidly, nestled her lips against his hands. Tears gushed from her eyes. Alyosha stood speechless and embarrassed. He had absolutely not expected what he saw. Love is past, Mitya, Katya began again, but dear Auntie Pain to me is what is past. Now that forever. Know that forever. But now, for one little moment, let there be what might have been. She mouths, with a twisted smile, again looking joyfully into his eyes. Both you and I now love each other, yet all the same I shall love you eternally, and you me. Did you know that? Do you hear? Love me all the rest of your life. Love me, she exclaimed with a kind of almost menacing vibration in her voice. I shall love you. You know, Katya, Mitya began to say, taking breath at each word. You know, 5 days ago that evening I loved you. When you fell in and faint, and were carried out, all the rest of my life, so it shall be, so it shall eternally be. Thus they babbled to each other words that were almost without sense and uttered in frenzy, perhaps not even truthful, but at that moment all was truth, and they themselves believed themselves unstintingly. Unstingly. Katya, Mitya suddenly exclaimed, do you believe that I killed? I know that you do not believe it. But that day, when you gave evidence, did you really, really believe it? Even then I did not believe it. I never believed it. I hated you and suddenly made myself believe. Then, for that moment, when I gave evidence, I made myself believe it, and believed. But when I had finished, I at once ceased to believe. Know that all of it. I have forgotten that I came here in order to punish myself, she said with a kind of wholly new expression, wholly unlike her recent amorous mouthings of a moment earlier. It is painful for you, woman, suddenly burst from Mitya, wholly without restraint. Let me go, she whispered. I will come again, but it is painful now. She began to get up from her seat, but suddenly gave a loud scream and reeled back. Into the room, suddenly, though very quietly, Grushenka had come. Oh, snap. No one had expected her. Katya took an impetuous step towards the door, but on drawing even with Grushenka, suddenly stopped, turned white as chalk all over, and quietly, almost in a whisper, moaned to her. Forgive me! The other stared at her and then, for a moment's wait, in a venomous, malice-poisoned voice, replied, It's wicked we are, mother, you and I, wicked, both of us. How can it be for us to forgive, you and I? Now, if you'll rescue me, all the rest of my life I will pray for you. But you do not want to forgive, Mitya shouted at Grushenka in a mad rebuke. Put your mind at rest. I will rescue him for you, Katya whispered quietly and ran out of the room. And could you not forgive her, after she herself had said, Forgive! To you, Mitya bitterly exclaimed again. Mitya, do not dare to rebuke her. You have no right, Alyosha shouted warmingly at his brother. Her proud lips spoke, but not her heart, Grushenka pronounced, with a kind of loathing. If she will deliver you, all will I forgive. She fell silent, if she had crushed something in her soul, as if she had crushed something in her soul. She had not yet managed to regain her wits. It later turned out that she had come in quite by chance, not suspecting anything at all, and never supposing to encounter what she had encountered. Alyosha, run and follow her, Mitya said, turning to his brother in a rush. Tell her, I do not know. Do not let her leave like that. I will come back to you before evening, Alyosha cried, and ran off in pursuit of Katya. He caught up with her when she was already beyond the hospital wall. She walked swiftly, hurrying, but as soon as Alyosha caught her up, she said to him quickly, No, before that one I cannot punish myself, I said to her. Forgive me, for I wanted to punish myself to the end. She did not forgive. For that I love her. Katya added in a voice that was distorted, and her eyes flashed with a wild malice. My brother was not expecting her at all, Alyosha began to mutter. He was certain that she would not come. No doubt. Let us leave that, she snapped. Listen, I am unable to go there for the funeral with you now. I have sent them flowers for the little coffin. I believe they still have money. If necessary, tell them that in the future I will never abandon them. Well, now leave me, please. You are already going to be late there. The bells for the late liturgy are ringing. Leave me, please.